page, the Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
That how that actually comes back around to our laws themselves. And really the crust of the conversation was, you know, if we have the right to defend ourselves, why do we see regulations? Why do we see laws in our state and at the federal level around these things? Why are they trying to take away bits and pieces of our Second Amendment rights or other rights? And one of the interesting things that I see is when you start talking about First Amendment rights, people don't have a problem not impeding your exercise, or free exercise, I should say, of those rights.
Yeah.
Yet when we start talking about Second Amendment rights, people feel like that there should be limits. You take a pro-gun person who believes that their Second Amendment rights exist and that we should stay away from Second Amendment, and you ask them a philosophical question about where or to what level does someone have the right to protect themselves and to arm themselves. Because if you look at the Constitution itself, the Bill of Rights itself, it doesn't give specifics. It doesn't say you can defend yourself and your property with a knife or with a musket or with a specific kind of firearm. It just says arms. Any type of arms that you want to take up. So if you take up a baseball bat to defend yourself, that's protected from a Bill of Rights perspective. So it didn't limit this concept or idea, but we as people have a tendency to want to throw some sort of limit out there. Mm-hmm. If you ask someone, hey, is it okay if you're going to defend yourself and your property and you use a missile to do that or a M1 Abrams tank to do that, people oftentimes want to back away from that. And they go, wait. You don't need that. And yet the philosophical discussion, not that I'm endorsing anyone having a weapon of that nature to use, but the philosophical piece of that is that when you start limiting this idea, this protection of the Second Amendment, you start creating disagreements between people as far as how far you need to go in impeding someone's free exercise of that right. The right itself exists. I have the right to defend myself through whatever measures that I deem are necessary. Whatever measure. If I need to use a firearm to defend myself, I have the God-given right to do that. That right still exists. It exists regardless of borders. It's not something that's just a U.S.-based right or a right that exists only within the United States of America. This is a right that exists globally, and it's inalienable, and it's God-given. It's God-granted. Whether you choose to exercise that right is up to you. As an individual, do we have the right to bear arms? Specifically, that question is answered from a philosophical question through the exercise of the right for self-defense. So yes, we have the right to use whatever method that exists and whatever's available to us.
I certainly like your point about essentially we don't treat the Second Amendment, or we treat the Second Amendment differently than we would treat any other. Any other amendment, any other right. And I specifically like how you guys got into conversation about rights versus privileges, because of, of course, a lot of people are now paying attention to what the specific words our politicians use when referring to our rights. Sometimes they call them privileges, and it's gotten me. I mean, that doesn't set well with me at all because it's the Bill of Rights, not the Bill of Privileges. But we're talking with Scott Richardson, a Republican candidate for District 91 in a primary there. We'll be primarying State Representative Dan Douglas, who ran a ton of tax increase bills and supported a lot of them. Can we talk a little bit about, shifting gears here, Scott, can we talk a little bit about the Arkansas economy? We had numbers that came out on that last week. What are your thoughts on
pretty
that?
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, economy as a whole is doing fairly well, and if you look, that's a direct reflection of the economy as a nation. We're doing fairly well from a national perspective as well.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. My name is Paul. Thanks so much for being with us. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. We want you to be a part of that. One of the ways you can do that is to call us or text us. The number 870-275-9799. Of course, we've told you many times that one of the components of that liberty machine is a mirror. That is a reflection of, of what the politicians really are, not just what they say, but what they do. And a lot of times politicians look in that mirror, they don't like what they see, but what they're really seeing is the people's opinion of them when they go back on their word. And they say one thing on the campaign trail and they do another. That's one of the components of the liberty machine. I thought I would remind that concept, because it's always fun to talk about. They don't like what they see when you remind them who they said they were. But this mirror says, this is who you really are. This is how we see you. The phone number, if you want to call or text, 870-275-9799. At the conclusion of the program today, I'll be heading to the Western Sizzlin in Jonesboro, where Jan Morgan will be speaking to the Craighead County Republican Committee. This is fascinating if you really think about the history, what has led up to this point. I understand that Jan Morgan did speak to the Arkansas State University College Republicans earlier today. So now she'll be at Western Sizzlin at 6:30. So anybody in the Northeast Arkansas area, if you would like to hear her speak, see what all the fuss is about, you can head to Western Sizzlin and in Jonesboro to hear her speak. Now, I mentioned what all the fuss is about. Well, the fuss is really with the Republican Party establishment. This is a Republican Party establishment who is helmed by Governor Asa Hutchinson, who tried to get Jan Morgan indirectly uninvited from the Mississippi County Republican Reagan-Lincoln Day dinner. We have the email to prove it from his associate, his employee, Doug Smith, who works in the governor's office, making $50,000. I think actually now he's been demoted. He only makes $30,000 a year, but I know he used to make $50,000. Maybe it had something to do with his email and bullying of people who were just at the county level wanting to have Jan Morgan because they like her, they like the ideas that she talks about, and the dynamic speaker that she is. Then, of course, Jan Morgan spoke at the Baxter County Republican Committee, their Reagan Day dinner or Lincoln Day dinner. I get them confused at this point. And, of course, that just absolutely was streamed online in Baxter County up in Mountain Home. and that sent the establishment in an absolute frenzy. An absolute frenzy. Now, there was already whispers of pressure trying to get her disinvited. Now, if you back up before any of that, Craighead County, where she's speaking tonight, they had her scheduled to speak and promoted it, and then, of course, she was disinvited. Now, depending on who you talk to, there are different reasons for that, but I have talked to people that say that there was pressure for her not to show up. I've talked to people that says that there was not pressure, but I just, to be quite honest with you, I'm just going to go ahead and say I think that there was pressure. There might have been other reasons that contributed to that had nothing to do with the pressure as to why Craighead County uninvited. But this is what has led us to this point. I think it's good of them. It's good of Craighead County and the Republicans here to have her to show that they're not afraid of her speech, to show that they're not afraid of her ideas, to show that freedom of speech is a good thing. It's something that's supposed to be promoted in the Republican Party. The whiteboard this week says, what is good? Well, a healthy debate is good. A diversity of ideas is good. And I would just commend the Craighead County Republicans for having Jan Morgan in to speak. I think it's great. So after Jan Morgan spoke at the Mississippi County Republican Party, people went into meltdown mode once again. And the pressure and the next people to cave were the Sebastian County Republican Women's Group, and they uninvited Jan Morgan. She was uninvited after she gave a fantastic speech where she criticized the Republican establishment, and she told people her own personal story that no one can take away from her. She told people that her personal story about what happened at the Marble Palace from her perspective on Second Amendment rights and what Governor Asa Hutchinson did and what the politicians around Asa did to protect him from having to vote against the Second Amendment. So they watered down the bill. And now, of course, we have an enhanced carry piece of legislation that is a nightmare. You have concealed handgun instructors all across the state who are saying that they want nothing to do with being an instructor anymore. And so it's been very interesting. Last week, Jan Morgan went and spoke at the Washington County Republican Committee with great fanfare. Shortly after that, we covered this on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. There was a Facebook post from the Washington County Tea Party wishing Jan luck on her future endeavors and thanking her for coming to the party, thanking her for coming to the meeting. This was taken down. I'm told, and this was from a Conduit for Action post, that this was taken down because there was pressure from the Republican Party, the Central Committee, if you will, and that's a reference to the Communist Central Committee, quite honestly, because that's where we are now. We're getting eerily close to this concept of the committee ruling these local entities with they're just demanding complete fealty, complete loyalty. They want no diversity of ideas. They want nobody with a legitimate chance to challenge the people who are in power now to have any platform at all, even though the people at the local county committees are okay with freedom of speech. It's the Central Committee that's not okay with free speech. And so this whole thing is extremely frustrating. So they removed the post, okay, and then they put a different post back up that was slightly edited. We didn't get to cover that part on Wednesday. Just so you know, I'm going to cover all of what happened with Washington County taking that post down because supposedly, allegedly, of what the Republican Party of Arkansas insisted happened. We're actually going to be talking on Friday with the chairman of the Washington County Republican Committee, Mr. Jim Estes, will be on the program, and he's going to give his version of events of what happened. Okay. The phone number, call us or text, is 870-275-9799. I give you that history because it brings us to this point. It brings us to where we are with Jan Morgan here tonight in Craighead County. She, like I said, she's been on this listening tour. She's thinking of whether or not she's going to run for governor of the state of Arkansas, and it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing that you have such totalitarian tactics here of people afraid of her being allowed to speak when she gets invited, and people putting this pressure in. Anyway, I'm happy to expose it and continue because I'm not afraid of. I don't understand. I'm not afraid of ideas. You see, in my experience, it's always the left that maybe reacts more with emotion and maybe they don't really want to debate ideas, And the classic example is when you start quoting facts or you start quoting statistics or whatever, they may say, okay, well, you're a racist for thinking that. It was like, no, well, this is just data. Yeah, data may have a racist outcome, or yeah, data may prove my point and make you feel bad. Okay. And so what does the left do? Okay, you look at a successful guy like Ben Shapiro. Well, they burn down Berkeley, right? You look at these success. They don't want to have the debate, okay? And so, but it's the Republicans that at least claim the moral high ground or the ethical high ground, or they at least claim we are for the Constitution, we're for the Bill of Rights, we're for the free exchange of ideas, and then letting the people make up their minds. But the Republican Party of Arkansas won't let a Republican in their midst, okay? That's what we've seen. There's pressure, and again, kudos to the Craighead County Republicans for allowing this to happen tonight, but they won't allow it. There's the pressure, and it's just total hypocrisy. And it's the same type of hypocrisy that won't ask for Senator Jake Files to resign after he's been mentioned in a sworn FBI affidavit accused of wire fraud and forging bids and stealing taxpayer money for his own personal gain. They won't call on him to resign. The governor won't call on him to resign. The RPA won't call on him to resign. They're more concerned with preventing Jan Morgan from speaking. And again, the Mississippi County Republican Party leaked the email. I mean, I have the email from the governor's office or from Doug Smith, who works for the governor. In his defense, it was a personal email account. But, hey, if I'm going to bully somebody from the governor's office, I'm going to do it from a personal account too, okay? These guys aren't stupid, okay? They know how to get the message across. We have all this. This is evidence that this is happening. They're afraid of speech. Not tonight, at least, they're not. These local committees, all of you listening across the state, your local committees encourage the people who are involved there. Support them. Just tell them, listen, we're not afraid. You may want to go vote for Asa Hutchinson. You may want to go vote for Jan Morgan, but let's not be afraid of ideas and debate. And if that means, and see, this is where they'll say, well, it's just too mean. Well, I'm sorry if you as a Republican have voted for tax increases, advocated for tax increases, punished people who didn't vote for your tax increases, and you're a Republican and you claim to be for limited government, and you don't want that brought out, that's your fault, okay? That's your fault for pursuing that agenda. Okay, so the truth can make you uncomfortable, but the truth is still the truth. And trying to stop it, trying to tamp it down, trying to put out this fire of people in Arkansas who are saying, you know what? Just because you have an R next to your name doesn't mean that you are implementing the will of the people. And what Arkansas has been through over the last 8 years is something remarkable. And yet we don't have the policy changes. If Arkansas had been a Republican state for 138 years, okay, and the Democrats took over, you can bet, you can take it to the bank, we would have radically different policies. And we don't right now. Something is not right. There is a disconnect between the people and the Marble Palace in Little Rock. That's all I'm saying here. Again, the number 870-275-9799. Joe, I know you were trying to say something, and I didn't let you talk. I apologize. I got on a rant. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, that's fine. Okay, so I had my mic unmuted so I could say something, but then you started going into a different direction.
I'm sorry, man. I apologize.
Okay.
So, did you forget it?
No, I know what I was going to say. It's just you went off in a way where
It's called a rabbit trail. You can say. Say the host.
When you went off on your rabbit trail right there, after you mentioned Ben Shapiro, was whenever I was going to say something.
Oh, right.
Because
okay, I remember now.
Because right before you brought up Ben Shapiro, you brought up the fact that the left likes to use feelings in their arguments, whereas the right tends to try to use facts. Try to. Again, it's try. Emphasis on try.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro has something that he says over and over again. I wasn't going to bring it up until you said his name, and I was like, okay.
His motto is good, or his slogan there.
Yeah.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. Facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
And that's something that he says a lot. And I find it overwhelmingly true. I listen to him a lot, and he says it so many times, but it's so true.
Yeah, and that is, it really does encompass what this millennial generation is going through. A millennial generation that I refuse to identify with because I saw telling you, go look it up. It's the Oregon Trail generation. That's my niche, even though Wikipedia says otherwise, because I was born in 1984. I reject it. I think it's ridiculous. We saw analog technology. I owned a Walkman, and I know what analog technology is, and I saw the transition into digital technology, and that is a separate slice, and I refuse to be identified as a millennial. But Ben Shapiro is certainly, I mean, he's in the ring, and he is battling this stuff like no other. Okay, so when we come back, I want to talk about this. This is fascinating to me. We have people who are afraid of the free market. Now, in this case, it's liquor stores. There was legislation that was passed trying to allow grocery stores to be able to sell wine here in Arkansas in the wet counties. And this has made some liquor store owners upset. So back on November 14th, Linda Satter had a story about this has now been brought before a judge. Now, the liquor stores have lost, but I'm going to cover this because it's been a while. We kind of fell through the cracks here. But I want to talk about the free market when we come back. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. It's brought to you by Conduit Media Group. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell program and Conduit Media.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
What you cooking? It smells familiar.
I'm cooking something amazing, new, and different, and you're going to love it, babe.
Really? It seems like we've had this dish before.
Don't believe me? Come and taste it for yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm right. This tastes just like Obamacare.
No, actually, it's the new private option. I call this fantastic new dish Arkansas Works.
That's odd, because it looks and tastes just like Obamacare.
Why do you always have to be so critical? I'm in here cooking, trying to do something nice for the family.
Because I thought we talked about this before. I don't like Obamacare.
You just need to give it another chance.
So you admit it's the same?
No, it's different. It's Arkansas Works.
Let me ask you something. Does it smell like Obamacare?
Yes.
Does it taste like Obamacare?
I suppose so.
Are you using the same ingredients to make it as you used to make Obamacare?
Yes.
Then how is your so-called new dish, Arkansas Works, not Obamacare?
Well, let me explain, honey. You will remember, recently, I had my name legally changed at your request, right?
Yes, I know. You had it changed from Duke to Rover. I dislike the name Duke, and I think Rover sounds so much more personally responsible.
Well, now that I'm called Rover instead of Duke, I believe I can take the same recipe and ingredients and create a dish with the same smell and taste from before.
Okay.
And because of my name change, you will love it.
I'm not buying it. And I just realized the name Duke and Rover are both common names for dogs. PHP Parody. No more let sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest.
That's Megan talking, so it's okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Now, I got an apology here. We're working through this. We're trying to figure out what exactly to do, okay? Because we just had to cut. Now, let me confirm, Joe, that this did actually happen. You did successfully take that audio out before the music started playing. Okay, so you heard us come back here. but then the music cut out for you, for our Facebook Live audience, and for our live stream audience, which is 2 separate audiences, and YouTube as well. 3 separate audiences. They're platforms. And for the best we can tell, I love Christmas music, and I'm not going to deprive our terrestrial radio listeners of the Christmas music during the duration of the program. And so because of that, Facebook Live is a great platform. It's growing. It has been a success, but they take our videos down at the end because they've got an algorithm that they can detect copywritten material. And even though as a radio we can play this stuff, Facebook is like no. So we're going to try to figure out a way to work around this. I don't know if we can, but I do want to abide by the rules. If that's the rules, Facebook, I do respect. They're a private organization. They can have whatever rules they want. So just keep that in mind. If you hear some dead areas right before, so we go to break and then right before I come back in, and that's only to try to protect the integrity of the video, so that people can re-watch the content after the live broadcast has concluded. All right, free market. Couple of things here. Selling of wine at grocery stores in Arkansas, Wett County, is put to a judge. Interestingly enough, the headline that's in front of me says grocery stories. Do you see that? You see that, Joe? Does yours say stories? Yeah, yours says stories too. Throw that up there for everybody to see. We found a little typo here. Selling of wine at grocery stories in Arkansas's Wett Counties is put to a judge. Now, the arguments here are fascinating, but if you scroll down here, the very first paragraph kind of sums up what this is about, that wine drinkers across Arkansas's 40 Wett counties will be able to buy their favorite wine in grocery stores or convenience stores as early as Thursday if a federal judge decides today, this is back on November the 14th, to reject a request from area liquor store proprietors. Okay, U.S. District Judge Brian Miller sides with liquor stores, if he sides with liquor stores and decides to block the State Alcoholic Beverage Control Board from issuing permits to grocery retailers until a new state law can be more closely examined, the grocery retailers won't know for months if they can someday expand their offerings. So we keep going down there, and we have a part owner of 107 Liquor in Sherwood says that he'd like to hit pause and weigh out these issues. Okay, then we have some other ones. And this right here sums it all up for me. Listen to the question that was asked by Assistant Attorney General Jennifer Merritt. If the permits are issued, can you point to any other harm you would suffer other than increased competition? Wow. And you know what he says? He says, no, I can't. I can't point to anything else, any other harm except increased competition. People are scared of the free market. They really are. And, you can make a strong argument that the reason that we're in this place right now is because you do have existing government regulation regulating alcohol. Okay? That certainly is the case. And now we're going to have, we don't even really have a true free market here, because now what do we have? Well, there's going to be more permits that are issued. Go to the next article, Joe. The liquor store owners here lost. The grocery store owners won. There have now been, fast forward to 2 days later, November 16th, 214 permits issued for wine sales at Arkansas grocery and convenience stores. Okay, so now we have 214. Now, I'm going to say that there are more than 214 grocery and convenience stores around, and that's not to say that those permits, the number of those permits is not going to go up. But, here, this is where I fall down on it, and I fully support. I know you have wet counties, and I know you have dry counties, and I know all this stuff, but from a free market standpoint, you have a product that is legal to sell, and you have a competitive disadvantage of people who don't get the permit, and to me, it just invites the government to pick winners and losers. And forever. I mean, I've grown up in a dry county all my life, but, there forever was when you had the private club deal, it was always, well, if you want your liquor license, there's a certain person that you can go to, and he knows how to fill the application out a little bit better than everybody else, and he always gets approved. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that just makes me sick.
So, welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
The good numbers are great. It's interesting. I did a little digging, a little research to try to see how those numbers actually relate to historicals, and then also how they relate to the states that surround us. And there's a lot of good information if you want to spend the time to actually go out and look from the Bureau of Economic Development that goes into specific details. You can pull up all kinds of really cool numbers, and if you're a numbers person, there's all kinds of information out there. So it's not hard to find different pieces of information. But one of the things that you when you start looking into this, you get distracted with a lot of other possible drivers. And let me give you an example of that. If we look at the top drivers or top performers from a GDP perspective, a gross domestic product perspective, and for those that don't really know what GDP stands for or what it really means, it is the total collective value, if you will, of all goods and services within a specific geographic area. So if we were talking about a state in this perspective, it's all the things that we can sell or that we own or that we provide from a service perspective, and how that all comes together. And we measure GDP changes over time. How does that value increase? How does it decrease associated with other things that are going on from an economic perspective? So real GDP, and that's what I'm referring to, and that's the numbers that we saw from a 3.5% growth this last quarter, was great from a overall growth, and that's a number that a lot of economists will talk about. They say that it should be 2%, it should be 3%, it should be 1.5%. So they have their drivers and specific associated numbers that help them predict what it's going to be and what it should be. Arkansas, when you look at Arkansas as a whole, our GDP grew at 3.5%. It was significantly less last quarter. It was around 1.3, and the quarter before that, it was about 0.5%. If you look at overall numbers, that's kind of low when you start comparing those overall, or I would say an average of the last 3 quarters, were quite low in comparison to other states around us, and very low in comparison to the top performing states. When you start looking at the top performing states, you find something that's very, very interesting. You have a few outliers, and that's kind of where I started with this. I mean, like, for instance, you've got West Virginia that hasn't grown very well at all. In the last couple of quarters, all of a sudden it spikes up. Well, we know that there's a lot of coal in West Virginia, and that's probably one of the primary drivers for their GDP growth.
All right, folks, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. The phone number, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. You may call or you may text, whatever you like. And you sound off on Facebook Live. We appreciate that. Okay, so this portion of the Paul Harrell program, this segment, is brought to you by the great folks at Conduit for Commerce, who are the sponsors for this segment. Conduit for Commerce, if you go to their website, conduitforcommerce.org, putting Arkansas small business first. And you need to really check them out. There was a time when the Chamber of Commerce did the work that Conduit for Commerce is doing. There was a time when the goals of the Chamber of Commerce were the same goals as what Conduit for Commerce is trying to do today, putting Arkansas small businesses first. That is not the case anymore with the Chamber. If you are someone out there who is exacerbated with the Chamber of Commerce and you don't feel like they're standing up for small business, and trust me, they are not. They are standing up for big corporations. They're standing up for corporate welfare. They may put on the little job fair for you. Trust me. Trust me. That's crumbs compared to what they really believe in, which is now partnering with government. It's now legal for cities to give money to the chamber, thanks to a deceptive ballot initiative that was voted, in the affirmative by the people, but it was deceptive, just like it always is. You had Asa going around telling everybody, well, this is going to create jobs. Well, I mean, most people at that point, they were like, well, okay, I'm going to trust him. He's our governor. He wouldn't, he wouldn't have carefully crafted language. It's about jobs. Well, no, it was about debt. It was about debt. It was about continuing to prop up cronies like the Chamber of Commerce. And, folks, you can just go look. This is not just Arkansas. This is a national problem. It's a state-by-state problem. Anyway, Conduit for Commerce, on the other hand, is doing the work that the Chamber used to do or claim to do. So check them out, conduitforcommerce.org. Now, speaking of that, we, of course, have tax reform and tax relief, the tax farce that's out there. Well, they put out, Conduit for Commerce, it's up there right now, recommendations for this Arkansas tax force that is, in my opinion, going to raise our taxes, not cut them. That's what I think is going to happen when it's all said and done. They'll claim that it's a tax cut, but I think when all of the numbers come in, it's not going to be good for the people of Arkansas and for small business. Now, that being said, we do have some developing news. I'm sure that you heard that the committee in the Senate, now we're talking about D.C. stuff, they did pass the tax bill, okay? So we have the House that passed a bill a couple weeks ago, the full House, and now it has cleared a big hurdle in the Senate. It's gotten out of the committee, and that means it's one step closer to becoming a reality and possibly winding up on Donald Trump's desk. I don't know what the specifics are. I don't know, because I knew what the House specifics and the Senate, they were different. For example, the House wanted to end the death tax, which I thought was a great thing. The Senate, no, we don't want to end the death tax. We just want to, increase the limit. So we'll see what happens. But the bottom line is, this morning, I guess I was up about 6 o'clock looking at the headlines this morning, and I said to myself, you know what? If I'm a betting man, I'm saying they don't get this done. I thought it was going to die in committee. I really did. Now, it may go die in the Senate floor, but we'll see. All right? Now, keeping all that in mind, Arkansas's got its own tax problems to worry about. If the Washington, D.C. tax reform fails, that doesn't mean that we here in Arkansas can't hold our Republican officials accountable to do what they said they were going to do. It's going to be hard because, again, I think that they really want tax increases because they've mismanaged our budget since they've been in control. So going on down to the corporate tax rate. Now, this is huge. Let's look at some specific reforms, okay? Specifically, let's look at corporate tax reform. Now, I just told you that I'm not a fan of corporate welfare, all right? And I'm not. I'm not a fan of corporations using the government, okay, to get tax breaks that other corporations don't get or other small businesses don't get. Now, when we talk about the corporate tax rate, we're talking about big corporations, but we're also talking about what we would consider small business here at Arkansas in many regards. So keep that in mind. Don't try to separate the two. When we're talking about corporate tax reform, we're talking about your neighbors' businesses here, okay? But you could make the argument that Arkansas's corporate tax rate is to the point that it actually encourages the cronyism of the governor or the government or the Arkansas Economic Development Commission taking a bunch of your tax dollars and giving it away to some corporation, some giant corporation that doesn't need it in order to, quote, create jobs some point in the next 50 years. You can make the argument that if we just treated all businesses the same, if we treated them all fairly by keeping regulations reasonable, by keeping tax rates low, maybe just the climate as is, just the equal protection under the law in terms of the tax code might entice people to move here voluntarily without the government having to get involved and court. And then you got the governor that makes his position. He thinks it's more important than it actually is. I mean, can you imagine if this version of tempting people and using taxpayer dollars, if it didn't exist, how we would go through life? We would go through life not hearing as much about these politicians. Wouldn't you want to go through life hearing that government is so small that it's reasonable? We have voluntary cooperation. The government does the things that it was meant to do, but it doesn't reinvent things for it to do, where we wouldn't even hear about these politicians, right? That it just ego, right? I personally would love that. I wish they would get rid of the Arkansas Economic Development Commission, because all it does is serve crony capitalism. But let's talk about real tax reform. Let's talk about these recommendations. Over at Conduit for Commerce, they are recommending that the state of Arkansas totally eliminate the corporate income tax. This would be huge for job creation, actual job creation. People would go out and start creating jobs tomorrow. Not, well, once we get this, we're going to revitalize this old factory and hopefully we'll create about 50 to 100 jobs. By the way, we don't even have the workers for it because we have a skilled labor shortfall in Arkansas, the likes of which nobody talks about, but it's absolutely devastating to this side. If you really think about it, there's no way these jobs are gonna. I mean, they would have you believe that if they give money to Company A in China to build a factory here or to revitalize a factory here, that the people they're employing are right now sitting on the couch watching TV, and because that factory is going to go in St. Francis County, people are going to get, oh, I've got a job now. It's called skilled labor. You have to have some skills. You have to be able to show up to work on time. You have to be able to pass a drug test. That's what most Arkansas employers, they're begging for people like this. Okay? The reality is, Arkansas's government says this guy who is currently employed in the skilled workforce at this current factory, current Arkansas business, paying Arkansas taxes already, he is now going to go work at the new factory for higher wages because it's subsidized by the government, giving them an unfair advantage over current businesses. And Asa Hutchinson and the Arkansas Economic Development Commission claim a job's been created, when in reality somebody's moved from a current employment to new employment, and no job has been created. We're playing a game of old maid here with employees. That's all we're doing. Okay. Next. Let's just read this, shall we? I'm sorry about my rabbit trails. Totally eliminate the corporate income tax in Arkansas. This income stream is the most volatile and is in fact double taxation passed on to the consumer. Now, this is true. Corporate tax rate does get passed on to the consumer. The state already recognizes reducing taxes on companies increases economic development when it regularly chooses certain companies for tax giveaways. Pair this with a complete repeal of corporate welfare spending reforms, which includes state and local tax incentives. Corporate welfare picks winners and losers, distorts the economy, shifts current businesses' tax dollars to competing companies. That's what we were just talking about and how blatantly unfair that is. End the corporate welfare quick action closing fund. Repeal corporate welfare tax subsidies, including the Create rebate, the ARC Plus, the equity investment tax incentives, the research and development credits, and the Advantage Arkansas. This will also allow local taxing authorities to keep more of their tax dollars. This is specific stuff. If you're not familiar with Arkansas, its inner workings and everything else, but this is a specific recommendation, a series of them, to the tax force. Okay, let's hope they're not going to force us to raise their taxes. Let's hope they're actually going to cut them and listen to this common sense legislation. But you got to be willing to get spending under control. Eliminate the corporate franchise tax, which stifles growth in business creation in Arkansas. If necessary, increase the initial filing fee when creating the entity to offset some lost revenue. Let's see here. I love this. This is great. Individual income tax reform. Individual income tax rates, the reduction, simplify the schedules to a single flat rate of no greater than 4.9%. Continue the current low-income exemptions and deductions. For pass-through business filers, allow complete expensing in year of purchase rather than depreciation. Arkansas residents will likely lose the state and local tax deductions at the federal level, which is basically a tax increase on Arkansas residents. This should be an added deduction on the state level in order to compensate for the increase in tax at the federal level. Extend the number of years for a carry forward of a net operating loss, and allow for a carry back for a net operating loss. Freeze spending at last year's level and implement automatic triggers for rate reductions to be implemented for individual income tax rate reductions over no more than a 3-year period as revenue grows. Now, this is really good, too. That last part is going to be hard. Freeze spending at last year's level and implement automatic triggers for rate reductions to be implemented for individual income tax rate reductions. That is the kind of trigger I could get behind. Now, I say that in jest because remember when we expanded Obamacare in Arkansas, they said that there were triggers in the bill that we'd be able to get out of it in like 90 days or something if the federal government reneged on what they said they would do. Nobody really talked about that trigger when they were going to drop the traditional match rate from 90, or the match rate under expansion from 90%, 10% down to 70-30. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they addressed it saying everything's going to be fine. No triggers. This is a big one. Go down to government spending reform, Joe. Recommend a proposed constitutional amendment for a tax expenditure limit to contain government growth. That is huge. A tax expenditure limit. We talked about this, I believe, last week. We talked about Colorado and their Tabor law, or their Taxpayer Bill of Rights law, that has a tax expenditure limit. It says you're not going to be able to spend this much, and there are triggers, because here it is, you tie the limit to the growth in inflation plus population growth. So it's not like it's anti-growth. You just have to limit the growth by tying it to certain things. Include a tax rebate mechanism automatically triggered at certain thresholds to return revenue collected above the spending amount. A proposal like, again, Colorado's Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And then look at, these are two big ones here, government efficiency. Implement in your bureaucracies, which are essentially Bill Clinton bureaucracies. The bureaucracies that almost put 2 Clintons in the White House are still alive and well in Arkansas today. Implement performance-based budgeting. Now, we did a whole segment on this, and it was a Conduit for Commerce segment where we talked about what that is. And it's essentially saying, look, you're not going to get as a bureaucracy the same amount of money you got last year if you didn't need it and if you didn't perform based on legislative directive where we've agreed on these are the goals, these are the metrics, these are the standards. We want you to meet this threshold, whatever the standards are, depending on whatever agency, and then you come back to us and you report. And if you didn't do what you said you're going to do, maybe you're not getting to get the money next year, okay? And it would be up to a vote, and it would be the people deciding these things because it's working through our representative government. And then implement something called activities-based costing. This is a good one, and it really goes hand in hand with performance-based budgeting because how much does DHS actually cost? How much does the Department of Human Services actually cost versus what does it actually take to run the department? Like, what does it really take? And it's a way to look at things in totality instead of, well, within this department we have this, and this. It's a way to and at the same time specifically see, how much energy do we need for this activities-based costing. As a matter of fact, we need to do, I think, an entire segment on what that actually means. And at the very end here, Conduit for Commerce, I love this. About who agrees with these recommendations. They have a list of the most respected and conservative groups and foundations in the state and nation who spend millions developing good economic tax policies. So, this is done to highlight that currently, on its current trajectory, Arkansas Republican establishment people, they have acted outside of the Republican platform, and they have tried to advance a brand of platform Republicanism that wouldn't survive in Texas. It wouldn't survive in Tennessee. It would be called what it is. And the evidence here is when you look at these organizations like the Heritage Foundation, the Heartland Institute, okay, the American Legislative Exchange Council, the Cato Institute, the American Enterprise Institute, Freedom Works, the Club for Growth, Reason Foundation, the recent Arkansas U.S. Senators vote to eliminate deductions for state and local taxes. Then you have the Trump administration. These are people that are agreeing with these type of reforms and recommendations. So if you were to reject them, you're just once again furthering and proving what I say is correct, which is you guys who are in the leadership in this state are trying to play a game that would be called for what it is if you were in any other southern red state, which is progressivism and liberalism and not conservatism. All right. We're going to take a break. You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program. Phone number 870-275-9799. Back in a minute.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, that would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, The Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? I mean, revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. The new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? Revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government
better not tax our patience.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patience will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP Parody.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to talk radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
All right, so I have some news. We have some news. It's the Inside Arkansas Politics has tweeted that Governor Asa Hutchinson may have fielded a Democrat opponent. Now, first of all, we've known this is going to happen because in order for the Democrats to remain on the ballot the next time, okay, they're going to have to they're going to have somebody run as a placeholder, okay? That person right now is being reported by Kurt Lanning over at NWA homepage as former State Representative Jay Martin, who is a Democrat from North Little Rock. According to this report, he spoke with the Democrat Party, and let's see here. We have a quote from Arkansas Democratic Party Chairman John Michael Gray, confirming, quote, he has reached out to us. He has expressed some interest in running. But apparently there's also another man who is interested in running as well, but his name's not out there yet. And, of course, we now know. So he may have a Democrat. We, of course, know that he already does have a Libertarian opponent in Mark West, who's a friend of the program, who's been on the program before, and a possible primary challenger in the Republican Party, Jan Morgan, who once again will be at Western Sizzlin in Jonesboro tonight at 6:30 as a guest of the Craighead County Republican Committee. Let me say that one more time. As a guest of the Craighead County Republican Committee. So that should be interesting. We'll see. We'll watch this closely. Of course, we always knew he was going to have a Democratic opponent. So that's not anything new there, but who's it going to be? There's a lot of people who don't want to just, be a placeholder. They don't want to. It's a waste of time, and they don't want to, who wants to lose? Who wants to be put in there just to lose? Because the Democrat Party is very happy with Asa Hutchinson. They're very happy with Asa Hutchinson. If you don't think Democrats in Arkansas look at places like Texas and the policies they're passing down there, and if you don't think they say, well, it could be much worse, they could be passing policies like Texas passes, then you're kidding yourself. They're really happy that we haven't done that yet, and they're happy that Asa has managed the situation with carefully crafted language. We got to go. We've got one more hour coming your way next.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, economy as a whole is doing fairly well, and if you look, that's a direct reflection of the economy as a nation. We're doing fairly well from a national perspective as well. The good numbers are great. It's interesting. I did a little digging, a little research to try to see how those numbers actually relate to historicals, and then also how they relate to the states that surround us. And there's a lot of good information if you want to spend the time to actually go out and look from the Bureau of Economic Development that goes into specific details. You can pull up all kinds of really cool numbers, and if you're a numbers person, there's all kinds of information out there. So it's not hard to find different pieces of information. But one of the things that you when you start looking into this, you get distracted with a lot of other possible drivers. And let me give you an example of that. If we look at the top drivers or top performers from a GDP perspective, a gross domestic product perspective, and for those that don't really know what GDP stands for or what it really means, it is the total collective value, if you will, of all goods and services within a specific geographic area. So if we were talking about a state in this perspective, it's all the things that we can sell or that we own or that we provide from a service perspective, and how that all comes together. And we measure GDP changes over time. How does that value increase? How does it decrease associated with other things that are going on from an economic perspective? So real GDP, and that's what I'm referring to, and that's the numbers that we saw from a 3.5% growth this last quarter, was great from a overall growth, and that's a number that a lot of economists will talk about. They say that it should be 2%, it should be 3%, it should be 1.5%. So they have their drivers and specific associated numbers that help them predict what it's going to be and what it should be. Arkansas, when you look at Arkansas as a whole, our GDP grew at 3.5%. It was significantly less last quarter. It was around 1.3, and the quarter before that, it was about 0.5%. If you look at overall numbers, that's kind of low when you start comparing those overall, or I would say an average of the last 3 quarters, were quite low in comparison to other states around us, and very low in comparison to the top performing states. When you start looking at the top performing states, you find something that's very, very interesting. You have a few outliers, and that's kind of where I started with this. I mean, like, for instance, you've got West Virginia that hasn't grown very well at all. In the last couple of quarters, all of a sudden it spikes up. Well, we know that there's a lot of coal in West Virginia, and that's probably one of the primary drivers for their GDP growth. The coal industry is making a bit of a rebound. So you have other things that kind of throw these numbers around and make it difficult to get a clear picture. But one of the things that's very easy to see is our top drivers have very, very low income taxes. Most of them, like Texas and Wyoming and Washington State and Florida, have no income tax at all. So when you start looking at that in comparison to Arkansas, and Arkansas obviously has a significant income tax problem. We're ranked in the lower half of the nation from an income tax perspective. When you look at that in comparison, you think, okay, well, we had 3.5% growth, which is great, but what could it have been had we had less taxes? And there's a lot of studies that are out there. These coming from a large number of places. The Bureau of Economic Development. You've got the Tax Foundation. You've got a number of other places that have provided information on the correlation between taxes and economic growth as a whole. So if you start wondering how we can grow our economy in Arkansas, we can look at that as a problem. But then you come back to this whole idea of, well, we need this money to provide services in the state. One of the things that we've seen clearly from a research perspective is that taxation hurts overall economic growth. The more you tax, the slower your economy grows. And
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Yeah, I got a text message here. Let's see, somebody writing in good. I hope the Democratic Party puts someone in. The Republican voters will have someone to vote for. Now, Asa needs to go. Let me tell you something about this. Now, this is assuming you don't know that Jan Morgan is considering primary. Jan Morgan's going to be at Western Sizzlin in Jonesboro at 6:30 tonight as the guest of the Craighead County Republican Party. Remember that. I have gotten more text messages from listeners of this program that say that they would vote for a Democrat in protest in order to get Asa Hutchinson out of office. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'm just telling you, you would not believe the amount of people that text that to me quite often, listeners of the program. And my only issue, I would just want to know, okay, well, is the Democrat candidate pro-life? Is he really pro-life? Is he really pro-life? Does he say he's pro-life? You know what I'm saying? That would be the only way I couldn't cast my vote for a Democrat because of that one issue. You know what I'm saying? But if that's fascinating, I'm telling you, there are people who are in the grassroots who say, if we've got somebody who's not a real conservative in there but is just pretending to be, why not have a Democrat governor? I'm just telling you what they say. They say, why not have a Democrat governor? Because then the Republicans who are in the legislature would actually challenge the governor on his liberal progressive tax policy. And I think there's a lot of logic to be had there. Because on a lot of the big stuff, the Republicans stood up to Mike Beebe. On the big stuff this time, they went along with ACE's tax increases. More on ACE's tax increases here in a minute. But the news is that there is a report that former state representative Jay Martin, who was elected to the Arkansas House of Representatives in 2003, he's a Democrat from North Little Rock, has spoken with the Arkansas Democratic Party about running for governor. Again, his name is Dr. Jay Martin, a Democrat from North Little Rock. This according to NWAHomepage.com and their report on that. So that is the news at the top of this hour that you need to know. In international news, pretty scary stuff that we have the North Koreans launching a missile that landed right off the coast of Japan. According to Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis, this missile went, quote, higher, frankly, than any previous shot they've taken. He went on to say, the defense secretary went on to say that North Korea now has the ability to hit, quote, everywhere in the world, basically. Everywhere in the world, basically. So that's the Secretary of Defense now saying this. I mean, what are we going to not take him at his word? We have this. We have a situation. Other headlines: World War III fears again. This is back into the news cycle about their intercontinental ballistic missile. They fired it. South Korea fired one back. The North Korea. This from Express. This is a UK website. Express.co.uk. North Korea launched the missile at around 3 a.m. local time, sparking a furious response from Seoul. Within minutes of North Korea's ICBM launch, South Korea fired its own missile launch in retaliation. The North Korean missile was fired eastwards. The missile landed about 210 kilometers west of Japan's some island that I'm not going to pronounce, not going to attempt to pronounce. Japanese media reports the missile was in the air for 50 minutes, indicating a very high altitude path. And they have some of these graphics just showing how high it went. Anyway, and again, the Defense Secretary Mattis now saying they can hit anywhere they want to hit. So that's going to certainly be the news for a while, and we'll see how the United States reacts to that. Okay, I'll keep you updated if there's anything else during this hour. All right, so let's talk about Governor Asa Hutchinson and let's talk about taxes. But let's first let's illustrate why they have this unquenchable thirst for more of your money. $130 million increase in spending his first year, $140 million increase his second year, and $170 million increase his third year. The man has increased spending almost $500 million. Okay? So he has a problem with spending money. At the same time, Arkansas has future expenses to keep Medicaid expansion welfare afloat for able-to-work adults, and those expenses continue to increase in the foreseeable future, according to estimates. So we have future obligations that we can't afford, and we keep increasing the size of government by spending more money each year.
And yet we have a quote-unquote revenue problem.
And yet, he says when we had the shortfall, we have a revenue problem. Now, I want to go first to this story. Everything's going to become clear. Let's go to this story. Online retailers' best weekend ever. This explains a lot. Think about it with me. Online retailers. It's the big, bad internet. It's essentially the boogeyman of... It's like the boogeyman of legislators. Except, well, no, it's not. It's like they're not afraid of it, except they're afraid that nobody's ever going to tax it and they're never going to get any money out of it.
This article, any of the legislatures that were trying to push for an internet sales tax, their brains must have exploded.
Oh, you know they did.
Because they're like, we could have had all of this money.
Yeah. But you know what this headline does. It actually completely destroys one of their arguments that if we pass an internet sales tax, it's going to save brick-and-mortar mom-and-pop businesses. Now, you may be for an internet sales tax, which I'm not, and we can go down the issues as to why somebody in Indiana doesn't need to pay a sales tax on Arkansas streets, fire, and trash pickup, okay? They don't need to pay a sales tax for services that they're never going to benefit from. That's why you pay city sales tax. That's why you pay state sales tax, okay? And when the Indiana business ships products into Arkansas, it's on a truck, and those are on tires that are paying a federal excise tax on roads that goes to build your roads. So it's a wash, okay? People are paying their fair share when it comes to this stuff, even regardless of what state representatives like Charlie Collins or Governor Asa Hutchinson has to say about it, or Dan Douglas.
Have we talked about South Dakota's internet sales tax bill on the show yet?
Oh, yeah, we have, yeah.
I couldn't remember if we had.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's Supreme Court's got it right now.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're going to say.
Arkansas's Attorney General signed on to it.
That's
Leslie
right.
Rutledge
I now remember
signed on with all these other states saying, we want you to overturn this. And honestly, what are they going to do? This made me so upset. Our own Attorney General they are asking for the Supreme Court to legislate from the bench. They are asking them to do the thing that conservatives and Republicans have railed against forever. The judiciary should not be an overactive judiciary, should not legislate from the bench. It's embarrassing. It is absolutely embarrassing. Where was I? Okay, so no one is going to shop on the internet less. Okay, let me rephrase that. The vast majority of people are not going to shop on the internet less if you put a sales tax on it. So therefore, it will not save brick-and-mortar businesses. The brick-and-mortar businesses will survive based on market forces. Some of them are going to go out of business because some people don't want to touch and feel the items they buy, the specific items, okay? Other people may, right? Clothing stores are probably going to be fine. This is just me speculating. I'd like to be able to try on a shirt, try on jeans, try on shoes, maybe something like that. I think those will be fine. But more and more people are ordering clothes on the internet. But like a vacuum, okay, a vacuum cleaner. Maybe some people, maybe some, really who I guess I can be. This would be considered sexist, but like my mom, she likes her vacuums. You know what I mean? She knows. Like, I'm a huge Dyson fan myself. I love a Dyson. Absolutely love Dysons. They're the best vacuums on the market. My mother, on the other hand, she's tried them. Not a fan of them. She likes the big, she likes the different ones, where you actually have the big hose and you've got the separate unit and everything else. She just thinks those work better. Okay. My point is, you could foresee somebody who really wants to touch and feel a vacuum, or maybe, no, you don't. Like me, I know a Dyson. I know that it's going to be like the best brand that there is. So if I need a new one, I may just order one online. But now maybe a reclaim store where they rebuild them. No, I'm going to want to actually inspect that one. I want to make sure it's rebuilt right. My point is the market's going to decide, and it's going to be different. But to say tax the internet so we can save brick-and-mortar stores is a lie. It is a deception. How is giving the government more money going to save brick-and-mortar businesses? How is that going to make people go shop at brick-and-mortar stores when it's so convenient to shop on the internet for most things now?
Said most of the people who are wanting to shop in stores are the ones who either want it then or who, again, like you said, clothes, want to see the product. For me, for instance, when I bought my new TV, when my 1 year anniversary here at the show hit, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go splurge and get myself a nice new toy. And my TV was multiple years, like 5-6 years old. I got it when I started college. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get me a new TV. I feel like this is a good investment. It's a nice little.
Yep. And did you go to a brick and mortar?
Yeah, I went to Best Buy. And got it. Fun fact, I opened it up and there was a crack in the screen, but that was because there was a piece of styrofoam missing to protect it.
So
anyways, I'm one of those people that if I get a new toy, like a new something to play with, I want to go pick it up.
Yeah.
I want to go get it. I don't want to have to wait for it. That's the thing.
Yeah. I did something similar. Okay. We moved, so we had our first child 5 months ago almost. Okay. and she's amazing. She's really cool.
She's absolutely adorable.
She's great. And so we kind of made a deal. Okay, so we also, I guess a few months before, we moved into another house because we needed something a little bit bigger. I mean, my wife and I had been married for, I guess our 9-year anniversary was in July. It was like a few days after our daughter was born. So we essentially had been married for 10 years and did whatever we want whenever we wanted to. And so things are a lot different now because we were very much creatures of habit, but it's been good. But we kind of made a deal, and because when we moved in the new house, my wife wanted new countertops. And so I said, okay, we had some money, and I was like, okay, you get the countertops, but I need a new television, right? Like, this is what I want. You want new countertops? I want a new television. So we were like, okay, deal, right? Okay. Little did I know that was the last. It's like this is like the last decision probably for a long time in our household that was based on equality, because a baby changes a lot.
Yeah, when it comes to the tipping scales, the baby outweighs everything.
Right. So what did I do? I went to Best Buy. You know why? Because when it came time to buy that TV, I wanted it. And I wanted it that day, So there's something to be said about that. And I'm glad you brought up Best Buy. A lot of times I want to watch a movie, and I like to own movies, like
I love to own movies.
Right?
Like, I want to have that disc.
Blockbuster's gone. Hastings is gone. These
I'm so sad Hastings is gone.
Right? And so Best Buy's kind of the only place. Walmart's the only place, but Walmart's only going to have either your really old movies for great deals or your newer movies, but they kind of, you're going to lose some of the others. But my point is, a lot of people still want to go out and purchase a movie. And so the market's going to decide who gets to live and who gets to die in the business world.
And to be honest, there are products out there, even that Best Buy has, that you don't necessarily need to see or look at. Like computers, you don't really need to touch a computer to be able to know what it can do.
Right.
You can sit there and go,
people
these are
order
the
those
specs.
online all the time.
Exactly. Because you can. When it comes to clothing, you got to know how it fits on you.
Yeah.
But a computer, you just look at the specs and go, okay, this is a decent
And there's
computer.
not really anybody that's like, here, try this computer out. Get it infected with a bunch of viruses to see if you like it. No, I don't like it. Like people, that doesn't happen. So you build the computer online, they ship it to you, and
or you just buy
there you go.
If you just buy a straight up MacBook.
Correct.
There's no customization with that. You buy this model.
Right. Anyway. We can put to bed, and we're going to have to do this continually because the Republican establishment and the Democrat Party are not going to rest on this. They're going to continue to say that you've got to have an internet sales tax to save mom and pop businesses. Again, just look at the basic incentive structure. It doesn't make any sense. More tax revenue to the government. That doesn't make any sense how that's going to save mom and pop businesses. Maybe it improves their sanitation collection in the long run when somebody from Indiana or Virginia is being forced to pay Arkansas city and state sales tax. But that's about it. It's not going to save their business. No one's going to go shop there because there's now a sales tax. Amazon's been collecting sales tax in Arkansas now voluntarily for 6 months, and most people don't even know about it. Now, a lot of people do, but most people don't even know about it, okay? And guess what? Ever since Amazon started collecting sales tax, there hasn't been some giant increase in brick-and-mortar sales. Their arguments don't make any sense, and it's because it's about the money. Now, I'm going to tell you what they need that money for when we come back and why they're not going to stop until they get it. Hopefully, we'll have conservatives that will actually stand up and stop it again like they did a few months ago. Back in a minute.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
iTex is your first choice for cost-effective IT services. Protecting your business means protecting your data. Are you tired of unpredictable and expensive spikes in IT spending? Using iTex will prevent downtime and loss of employee productivity and do it all with an affordable, predictable budget. iTex is the premier managed service provider for small and medium businesses. They help their clients put IT to work to earn your business more money, and you should contact them today for a free consultation. 870-336-9778. 878. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Do you need conservative legislation killed?
Or do you need policies enacted that ensure government growth?
Then you need to get
Nephewed. Hi, I'm nephew number 1 of uncle, nephew, and nephew, attorneys at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I am a senator.
And I'm nephew number 2, and I am a lawyer and also a senator.
Are you the victim of a recent accident in which the voters in your community mistakenly elected a limited government conservative who is now actually implementing the ideas he or she campaigned on?
That's right, nephew number 1. Don't be a victim of democratic elections any longer. At Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew, we are committed to killing limited government legislation and promoting bills that increase the size of government by using any tool at our disposal.
Because sometimes the truth of the matter is, principles get in the way of pragmatism.
Just listen to some of our great testimonials.
Ever since I've been using the nephews, all my special interests have been served. As long as you make sure your contract says lobbying services are prohibited, then the legal services of Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew are legal. Trust me, put the nephews on them.
It came out of nowhere. I was blindsided last election cycle when my well-funded and paid-for politician lost to some grassroots limited government voters. But then I hired the nephews, and they killed all the conservative policies the voters wanted. I got nephewed.
I got nephewed too, and so can you. Uncle, Nephew, and Nephew will accept compensation via campaign contributions. Put the nephews on them.
PHP Parody. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 870-275-9799. We have Scott texting in. Your text messages now. Scott texting in from Greene County, writing that you said that Asa has a spending problem. No, he doesn't. He can spend it as fast as we give it to him. Ooh, that's a good one. That's right in line with what Conduit for Commerce has been recommending. That if you just give us a tax break, the revenue stabilization, like they have to cut in places if they don't have the tax revenue. Our tax policy actually drives spending in Arkansas because of something called the Revenue Stabilization Act. We've talked about this. Scott in Greene County goes on that his problem is actually being honest and smart with our money. Scott, excellent text messages. Let me see here. Let's see here. A few more. Again, the number 870-275-9799 is the text message. I've got another text message. Somebody wanting Liberty Machine T-shirts at the Craighead County Republican Party committee meeting tonight, where Jan Morgan will be. I got a text earlier asking if it's open to everyone. It is. It's open to the public. You don't have to be a member of the committee to go. If you want to hear her speak, it's at 6:30. Coming up in an hour at Western Sizzlin' in Jonesboro. And again, this is a part of her listening tour. She's been to Washington County. She's been to Baxter County. She's been to Mississippi County. She's been uninvited to some places, but she's back here in Craighead County. Kudos to them for inviting her. And we'll see where else. It'll be interesting to see, what's said tonight. Well, that's a good question, Joe. She didn't come in studio with us today because she had an engagement with the Arkansas State University Young Republicans. It was about 3:30, I think, is when that started. And to get it all the way across town to the studio, and it would have just been a nightmare. So we had to pass on that. But we'll have Jan on again soon, for sure. Folks, up against a hard break. Back in just a moment.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Therefore, the slower the revenue that the state takes in grows. So if you increase your taxation, it's a bigger burden on the people. It slows down your overall economy. I mean, if you think through it, it makes sense. If especially from an income tax perspective,
yep.
The higher your income taxes are, the less disposable or quote unquote take-home money or disposable money that you might have available to make purchases. That purchase could be food, could be goods, could be whatever it is that you need to purchase. You have less of it that you take in. If you tax based on a consumption-based, whereas sales taxes or other types of taxes that are out there, you can still generate the same kinds of revenue or close to the same kinds of revenue through that kind of taxation without affecting people's ability to get the goods and services that they need, or with less of an impact. So it's an interesting correlation between the lower the income tax, the higher the growth potential or the normalization of growth potential has been for states, and then also the whole concept or idea of the lower the income tax, the faster your economy grows, and therefore the more revenue your state has available through the same tax percentages, right? Which is the key here. You raise your taxes, it hurts an individual. You lower your taxes, it helps an individual. If you keep your percentages the same, then you have less of an impact. But you can still generate more revenue to the state to provide more services.
Scott,
if you grow your economy.
I really hope that Little Rock is listening to this. I mean, I really do. Because what you're saying is making an incredible amount of sense. And we have heard, probably never as knowledgeable or eloquent as you, but we've heard it campaigned on by many Republicans across this state. And what you are saying makes an incredible amount of sense. And I really hope that we actually get to see this, these ideas become policy. And that's really what it is. That what you're talking about is good policy. What Arkansas has right now, at the very least, is not as good. So I really appreciate your comments, Scott Richardson. I want to give you the last word. We're out of time, but I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate the time as well. It was a good opportunity. Hopefully we can do it again at some point. Merry Christmas, Paul. I hope your family has a great one.
Absolutely. Merry Christmas. Scott Richardson, everybody, Republican candidate for District 91 in Benton County. Folks.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
All right, welcome back. 870-275-9799. Thank you for being with us today. We can't do the program without you listening every single day. I was talking about the bogus internet sales tax and the record online sales that people had over the weekend. And I told you, well, what are they going to do with all that money? Well, let me tell you what they're going to do with all that money. Over at Bloomberg Technology, Tiffany Carey wrote yesterday that the next U.S. restructuring epidemic, sick healthcare companies. And in this article, they're saying that in spite of, basically because of Obamacare, we're going to have a growing number of healthcare companies and hospitals face near-death experiences of their own. That's a pretty good pun there. So that's what she wrote. Now, the interesting thing about this is in Arkansas, they said they did what they did to save rural hospitals, and yet we have reports of other hospitals and other healthcare entities that are still, they need the money. And now the hospitals needed the money so bad back in 2013. They had construction projects all over the state. You had one in northeast Arkansas, $400 million facility being built. Well, they're saying, well, we got to have the money. And now, we're in the death spiral of Obamacare, and they need more money. It's pretty fascinating when you think about it. And the reason it's fascinating is because I've said many times before that Blue Cross Blue Shield and hospitals and these insurance companies and these healthcare companies, they're making out like bandits because they've got a guaranteed flow of taxpayer revenue supporting their business. And I point this out that we now have reports where hospitals are going under even though Obamacare isn't in existence, or they may be going under. I point it out because that just lets you know how deep they're going to dig their claws in to make sure that we never have reform, that we never get rid of this stuff because they're addicted to it, right? Taxpayer money, government regulation or government guarantees, interference, it's an opium to them, and their business is dependent on it, and they think they don't know how to do without it. They're saying that this could be massive. Okay, they say that there could be bankruptcy filings all across the country with healthcare groups because of Obamacare now and the effects that it's starting to have. And the reason this is because under Obamacare, hospitals got cuts. There were cuts made that never actually happened. There were cuts coming down the pike with their reimbursement rates and how the government was going to treat them, right? And guess what? It never happened. We expanded Obamacare. One of the arguments that big government Republicans used was because we had to do something. Well, the cuts never actually happened. And now that the cuts may be coming, now they're saying, well, we're gonna be bankrupt anyway. It's like, wait a second. What? And that should just let you know just how volatile this whole situation is. And that's why they need your money. That's why they're going after the internet tax so hard, because the Republicans especially don't want to admit that they have not managed government better than the Democrats since they've taken over. And that's just that's the truth. Now, I understand we got a phone call. We got somebody on the phone. We got Mark. Mark is on the Paul Harrell program. Is this Mark Pillow?
Hello.
Hello, Mark.
Long-time fan. Thought I'd call in and maybe hit some of the technical aspects of that North Korea missile launch today.
Yeah. Let's go over that one more time. Mark, I appreciate your phone call.
Well, what we have is an advance in their technology. with the altitude and flight time of 50 minutes that they hit today, they can reach virtually anywhere in the globe. The thing that they had to conquer was the multi-boost phase and the weight of the weapon, miniaturizing it. Now that they've done that, we've got maybe 25, 35 minutes to the West Coast when they launch. And if they do proceed with their submarine launch one and they get a submarine off our coast, you're reduced to a 5 to 10 minute warning window.
So Mark, give us your background. What's your obviously you have military experience to know about this. What's your background?
Well, I'm a school-trained air defense artillery officer, and I had a very good course on it at Arkansas State University, which culminated the day the silo blew up in Damascus. That was the day of my finals, so that's all I'd been studying. So it tended to make that sink in pretty tight. Now, the next question is will they develop MIRVs, multiple independent reentry vehicles, where one rocket or missile can pop off 2, 3, 4 warheads in one flight? They've now reached the point where we can't ignore them. They can make good on their threats. We'll have to expose whether or not our anti-missile system works or not. And the first time we touch one of those off, we instantly give away tremendous loads of intelligence to our enemies on how our system operates.
Wow. Yeah, you're clearly telling us a lot of stuff that I have no clue about. So to recap, you're saying that when we do, if our missile air defense system does in fact work, and North Korea makes good on their threats and they try to attack the United States, and of course this is off of reports. The reason, folks, this is off of reports that that you have Mattis, who is saying that now that they have shown that they launched this missile and it went as far up in the air as it did, it landed right off the coast of Japan, that they can essentially hit any target in the world. They have had success now. And so you're saying that if they were to launch in the United States and we would have to deploy our defense systems, that immediately the enemy would be able to analyze that. If it was successful, let's hope that it would be, the defense, and maybe they have a weakness to shoot at in the next time. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. The advantages, now, we have 3 carrier groups there. We have our Aegis carriers, but both of the Navy vessels that were recently involved in collisions were part of that system, and that completes our sensor net, along with satellites and the F-22 and F-35. As they fly, they downlink and uplink to satellites and ships to give targeting data instantaneously. But once we show how that works, everybody can start developing their countermeasures.
Wow. Okay, so you said earlier, again, we're talking with Mark, and he is you're calling from Craighead County, right, Mark?
I am.
Okay, so you have experience in this. You obviously know what you're talking about. But you said just a second ago, the news about North Korea is we can no longer ignore them. So if we can no longer ignore them, what does that mean? Because if you look at these scenarios of preemptive strikes, massive casualties. I mean, in the best scenarios, we have a lot of casualties. Unless I'm wrong. I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, have you seen any of the estimates?
I have. Easily 100,000 dead in North Korea because of the target areas being sparsely populated zones. And if they touch off every artillery tube they have within range of Seoul, South Korea, the capital, they can level hundreds of blocks in seconds. And if they only need 18 seconds to reload all those tubes and launch again before the counter battery fire comes in to obliterate them.
Wow. Okay. So there's essentially, I mean, if they continue to make the threats and now they can make good on the threats, I mean, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean that this is just inevitable at this point, in your opinion?
Not in my opinion. I think that we have something up our sleeve. It's referred to in the military civilian press as God rods. Supposedly we have some platforms in space with 120-pound tungsten-depleted uranium rods in them that can strike kinetically. And this came up after the earthquake at the test site after the last launch. That 3.5 they had would be very similar to the seismic signature you would get from a hyperkinetic energy round coming out of space.
Wow. So you're saying that I've never actually heard that. Platforms in space?
That's right. Now that's if we have them, then of course it's secret. There's no way to verify it.
Right.
But the ideal's been around as long as science fiction writers, so it's bound to have some truth to it.
Yeah. So you're saying that if we had something like that, then maybe you just basically, I guess shut them down with some sort of seismic. It's a seismic weapon at that point.
With a simultaneous launch at multiple targets to maximize the impact on the plate. As to whether it'll cause an actual earthquake or not, that's hard to say. But the mountains in North Korea have a structure that's prone to fracturing. I don't think there's a mountain there we couldn't fracture if we hit it hard enough.
Wow. Well, here's the thing: if that technology does exist, and it's not, it's little known or whatever, if that does exist, I got a feeling that if there's one president that would use it and reveal it to the world, it would be Donald Trump.
Amen. Just because of the treaty violations that a weapon like this involves, using it would just intimidate most administrations, but Trump would just lick his lips and say, let's go.
Yeah, you're exactly right about that. Hey, Mark, I appreciate it. You making me, make use of these. I had no idea about the missiles, but you certainly know what you're talking about in terms of what the capabilities are. And so I sure do appreciate you coming on the program. And you're in Craighead County. Are you going to be at the Jan Morgan event tonight at Western Sizzlin' 6:30?
I'm en route now.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, I'll be there, and I will see you there, my friend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, all right, folks, the telephone number, call, text, 870-275-9799. That's fascinating. Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said, Joe? Yeah, but I mean, these rods in space that you could just, that's crazy to me. I'd never even heard anything about that. I'm going to be Googling later tonight, trying to figure out, that's awesome. If that's the case, that's like something off of the like James Bond. Remember, I don't know if you remember the Pierce Brosnan James Bond GoldenEye, where they had this satellite in space that essentially was able to do these precision, nuclear blasts with satellite.
The thing that caught me kind of off guard was the fact that he used the word fracture on top, that we could fracture a mountain. I was like, I kind of got the idea that, or I already knew that missiles could do a lot. I was like, can we really just decimate a whole side of a mountain?
Yeah. This is what this is. See, this right here is the function of government. You know what I mean? This is it. This is why, government is there to secure our rights, secure our liberties. And, a threat of nuclear annihilation from North Korea and the crazy people that are running the government there. This is why. This is what it's there for, not to reinvent new responsibilities while other responsibilities suffer like this. We can't even, we're not going to be there. You can't have a political debate if you're dead. It's just very, very simple stuff. The telephone number again, 870-275-9799. We're going to wrap things up. We're going to take a break, though. We're going to be back here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for listening.
Merry Christmas from the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media.
Bob Maloney here from ASA News, The Parrot. Breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a Blue Ribbon Task Force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a Blue Ribbon Legislative Task Force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who's deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force?
Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white.
I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody.
This is for all you big government establishment Republicans out there. Hope you're listening. I keep a close watch on these votes of mine. I keep my finger in the wind all the time. I vote big government, and you will pay with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. You know, there's always an excuse not to shrink government. It's much easier just to toe that line. I find it very easy to be rhino blue. I find I'm not alone when failing to come through. Yes, big government, I'm a fool for you. 'Cause every time I toe that line. Legislative sleight of hand would be an accurate description. Or you could just say, they can't quit towing that party line. As sure as night is dark and day is light, I'll vote big government both day and night. And act like I'm shocked when it all comes to light. 'Cause every time I toe the line. You know, the phrase toe the line is the equivalent of toe the mark, both of which mean to conform to a rule or standard. You could also call it the status quo. Tax and spend, I'm always on your side. I love writing government checks that I cannot hide. Buying people's votes always turns the tide. 'Cause every time I toe the line. The Oxford Dictionary Word Histories. The idiom toe the line, from an athletics analogy, originated in the early 19th century. I hope you don't watch these votes of mine. Hope you don't see through the lies and slime. 'Cause I plan on spending with your dime. 'Cause every time I toe the line. You know, toeing the line is what the folks down in Little Rock call progress.
PHP Parody. Want to go back and listen to previous shows? Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, folks, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. 870-275-9799. And you can call or text that number not just during the show, but anytime during the program. You can always leave us a voicemail. Sometimes we like to put your voicemails on the air, by the way. So keep that in mind. Especially if they're angry ones. That's not bad either. Follow me on Twitter at PaulHarrell1776. And, one of the things that we also need to do, we haven't had a twit of the day in a while, so we need to do that very, very soon. But you can always send your twits of the days to us at PaulHarrell1776. So that is pretty, it's always fun to do. And it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a politician necessarily. It can just be somebody who's, spouting off on Twitter and doesn't really know what they're talking about. Okay, hang on one second. The Twitter feed is just so clogged right now because everybody is talking about a potential Democrat challenger in the gubernatorial race. Again, he may have a Democrat. Asa may have a Democrat opponent in former state representative. 2003, he was elected to the House of Representatives. Jay Martin, a Democrat from North Little Rock. The Democrat Party of Arkansas Chairman Michael John Gray has expressed and confirmed that Jay Martin did reach out to him and wanting to run. Now, supposedly, there's a second Democrat that is talked about running, but they haven't released his name yet. So, not really sure what's going on. And can you imagine if there's a Democrat primary? We haven't really talked about this, but this would be very interesting. Now walk this through me, walk through this with me, Joe. Okay. Let's say that Jan Morgan runs for governor. She's got an exploratory committee. Let's say that she runs for governor. That would mean there would be a Republican primary. Now, I'm already on record saying that if that happens, and the fact that we don't have closed primaries in Arkansas, you will see Asa Hutchinson attempt to get Democrats to go vote in Republican primaries. You will see Asa's office do this. Their jobs depend on it. People who if you're working for the governor's reelection campaign and you participate in that scheme, as far as I'm concerned, I don't see how you could ever claim that you're a conservative again. But that's what I think is going to happen, right? That you have Jan Morgan, if she runs against Asa in a primary, you're going to have the Hutchinson campaign attempt to get Democrats to vote for Hutchinson and they will, they'll try to paint Jan Morgan as, extreme. Okay. But that's going to be less likely to happen if there was a Democrat primary. Now, the Democrat Party would be very upset if there was a Democrat primary. Asa Hutchinson would be upset if there's a Democrat primary because that would mean the Democrats are going to be encouraged to vote in their primary. But it would also prevent them from going and trying to swing support to Asa. You see how that would be it'd be bad for the Hutchinson campaign if there's a Democrat primary.
Let's go Democrat primary.
It'd be good for the Asa Hutchinson campaign if there wasn't one. So the question is, will the Democrat Party try to control and make sure, because they're fans of Asa, will the Democrat Party try to control and make sure that there's only one Democrat candidate for governor in the state of Arkansas?
Let's hope not.
Here's the thing. They can't control it. I mean, now they can urge or whatever, but I promise you the Democrat Party will happily take the filing fee of $5,000 or whatever it is. They'll happily take that filing fee and, see what happens. It's going to be very interesting election season coming up at the beginning of next year. You're going to want to stay tuned to this program. You're going to hear news on this program you don't hear anywhere else. Arkansas, I so appreciate you being with us. Go to paulharrell.com. Get our Liberty Machine T-shirts. Our 50% off sale has ended. But you can go to paulharrell.com. That's Paul, HARRELL.com. And you can get our Liberty Machine T-shirts. They make great Christmas gifts. Or you can get Impression of the Session DVDs. Or you can partner with us on Patreon. Patreon.com/thePHP. Help support the program by getting extra content. We have our Wednesday weekly video that is due out tomorrow on social justice warriors and charity and the Christmas spirit. And you should just go give us $5 a month and check out not only tomorrow's Wednesday weekly video, but all the other ones that we've done so far.
Get someone a Patreon subscription for Christmas.
Get someone a Patreon subscription for Christmas and give them extra content and access for as little as $5 a month, or you can upgrade to 10 or 25. All right, that's all the time that we have here today. We will see you back here tomorrow. Until then, Arkansas, be safe.